Okay, good evening and welcome to Phil Goes Deep. It has been a number of months since I did anything on the YouTube channel. No live streaming for probably over 5 months now. So I'm just going to apologise for any technical difficulties, anything that goes wrong. I will not be surprised. Hopefully the levels are okay. If you hit up in the chat any problems with audio, I've shared a link to the ServiceNow community for this project. So anyone who's seen the channel before knows I focus on ServiceNow GRC, and this project is a little bit different. What I'm planning to do, and this might not end up working out, but what I'm planning to do is to see if we can convert GRC over to Flow Designer. So there are some areas that are already doing Flow Designer in GRC as of version 10.1. I think the policy exceptions, I've already got some flows in there. So I'm just going to fire up my instance and get started, see what happens. I am using New York, so I don't have all the latest features just yet. Let me see what's going on. I was getting a message on the on YouTube saying the resolution is not optimal. I think the audio levels are okay. But I think you may be getting a little bit of my breathing in there, so I hope that's not too much of a problem. Just going to move myself down into the corner. Okay, let's see. Transitions are working, and this is the article I've posted onto the community, so please like this and bookmark it, add comments, any ideas, any feedback in there, and then I'll just share this as and when. I'll try and schedule the YouTube streams ahead of time, give everyone a bit of notice if you are interested in this, but we'll just see what happens. Check. Are we flowing? Just checking Stream Manager on YouTube. Yeah, it seems to be working. I think it's just fallen out of sync, so apologies. Apparently there's an easy way to cut this down, so if we've got anything useful that comes out of this, we'll chop it up. But this is my instance. As I say, I am running, just do stats.do. Running New York there, so let's switch over. I've got advanced risk turned on. I've got policy and compliance, risk management, workbench, a couple of accelerators, advanced dashboards, and we've got a new release of GRC due in the next few weeks. I think that's going to be interesting, so I'll try and bring that into this as well. I'm going to fire up an update set, local update sets, and call this full flow, GRC full flow. So I'm going to start with the Profiles app because that's central. Okay, if you, maybe we will do a little diagram as well, try and keep track. I didn't want to do OneDrive, do device. diagram. So if you know GRC, you've got profiles, GRC profiles, which is SNGRC. Scope, we're going to hit up things like issues and indicators, entities, all of the entity stuff, so entity types, entities, classes, what else we got in there, filters. So let's see, what else do we have? Issues, obviously remediation tasks sit in here. So I'm going to start with this because it's central. Let's see how it goes, and I'm going to start targeting things like business rules, and one of the things, you know, fairly new to Flow Designer, I have been watching all of the live coding happy hours, or at least as many of them as I can. So I feel like what I expect from Flow Designer is that any public method from any script include, any API where there's a public method in there, those public methods should be converted to actions, and then those actions can then be consumed by subflows and flows. So that's how I'm going into this one. What I will do as well is fire up Flow Designer and just take a quick look at some of the new stuff that came out of the box for GRC. So if we go to actions, and look under application GRC. Okay, advanced risk has got some nice stuff in here actually. Though, yeah, I was messing around creating risk assessments somewhere else, but yeah, advanced risk, policy and compliance, get default approvers, generate approvals for policy exceptions. So I did see on the community a while back, someone said, you know, something's changed in policy exception, and the crux of it was that the workflow, as it used to be for policy exception, because policy exception has been completely revamped, has been rebuilt and is now available in Flow Designer. So if I were to create a new flow, I'll just call this demo 1 just to start with. Now I know there's going to be some things that we aren't able to convert. I think things like before business rules and certain types of maybe scratchpad business rules. But let's just see how much we can do as a test. So the thing that I really like is once you're in Flow Designer, if you're in a flow or a subflow, you go to actions, then you can start to consume these actions from this menu, and it just makes sense, you know, in terms of being able to consume your APIs through here. So that's my vision, and I think, like I say, we'll just start with profiles, and maybe issues is a pretty intense set of APIs. Indicators also, but indicators has got a couple of ways that they come in. They do run asynchronously, so you have a script action which is fired from a UI action event. So that's a good place to trigger into a subflow. I'd expect that to go into a subflow over here. And then you've got a scheduled job. Why is that not connected? You also have a scheduled job for indicators which runs overnight. So there's other things that happen with indicators like generate indicators for templates, etc. So let's see how much we can do. I don't know how long I've scheduled for tonight's stream. I'll try and keep it into 1 or 2 hour blocks, but it is pretty late here in the UK. It's getting on for 9 o'clock, so I'll try and keep it to an hour, just see how we get on for the start. I had this idea for a little while, and this is the first time I'm doing something with it, so be prepared. So we've got our update set, GRC full flow, go to Flow Designer. Now, yeah, so I was using Microsoft Edge. I was using Beta, and then I used Edge. I moved to Edge for the Mac, and that started playing up, to be honest with you. So my script utils isn't running, and I haven't yet got round to script includes. I haven't yet got round to testing out the new ServiceNow VS Code, which I am a bit disappointed with myself for not doing that. So if I go Grc Profiles, if we look at these script includes, we said we're going to start with indicators. Issues can go over here. Just mark them amber. Focus on indicators now. Let's see what we can do. So this is all the APIs that are in Profiles. There's 48 of them, but obviously some of them are public. Item generator engine. That's to do with actually producing the controls. Exceptions is to do with licensing. Choice utils, using the utils table. Assessment utils for taking assessments, things like attestations. Entitlement utils is brand new as well. That's in part to handle the changes to the licensing for IRM Professional in advanced risk. But I've got indicators. Let's have a look in here for indicator, and let's just crack on with indicator engine base. I'm just going to jump straight into this one. I want to try and keep track of what I'm doing. So just want to be able to sync this. Really miss that feature there. Now's not the time to start trying to set that up, so I'm just going to do a old school copy and paste. See, I've just set up a new account as well locally to make sure that I'm streaming from a safe location. So things like my defaults are not set up either. I haven't got my workspace set up. Just going to call this what it's called, indicator base. So when I look at this, I'm talking about all public methods. Let me just turn that off. I'm talking about all public methods. Run all indicators and run indicators, right? So these things are the two actions I'm expecting to make. Okay, update next date time. What I would really like, if this was, this is the base, so I can't change it, but what I would do here, and this would make us a lot easier, is if we had consistency. So you would say return this dot it'd be a lot easier, wouldn't it? Unfortunately it's a base issue, so No such luck. We've got, let me just change that. So we've got update next date time, run indicator, nice. I feel like I've broken something there, shouldn't have done that. Okay, so we've got run all indicators, run indicator, and update next date time. So we go into here, Flow Designer, and create a new action. And I'm going to name them exactly the same as their existing method. Okay. Is this application scope only? Okay, so it's important to also, I think, to enforce that. Just trying to think. I think that's right. We'll start with it. If we find a problem, then we can deal with it. Let's look at categories. I'm going to call this GRC IRM full flow. Oh, that's a global one. I'd like it if that was in my update set. Or we can push that in afterwards. Application. Ah, is that why? Yeah, let me do that again. GRC IRM full flow. Insufficient access level for create operation on action. What? This is not what I was expecting. I did see an error the other day when I was trying to do something in here. Let's see if I go to profiles. Maybe it didn't like me locking it down. Yeah, all application scopes. Yeah, it won't let me change that now. Okay, let's see. It's proof of concept really, but I would like to honour the existing security if possible. So we've got flow design, we've got an action, run all indicators. Let's get all of them named up here. So we've got run all indicators. I'm going to call it run indicator. And update next date time. Okay, so I've got my 3 actions from this API indicator engine. Run all indicators. Now run all indicators has no input, so that's lovely. No input. What does it output? Does it return anything? Ah, it's going to fire up batches. Yeah, I forgot about this. But it doesn't return. There's no returns in here. There's no outputs either. It's a good one to start with then really. So we're going to go in and create the actual action, which will be the script. I didn't know you could rename this. Must have missed that before. There's no input variables. It is literally as simple as instantiating new indicator engine base. Sorry, I keep going the wrong way on my switch. New indicator engine dot run all indicators save that. I'd like it if you had a script formatting in here. That would make me happy. There's no inputs, there's no outputs. It really is as simple as run all indicators, and then that's an action. If I should test this first, let's go to an indicator. Active, basics true. Just want to get a brand new one up here. Pick on just trying to find one that looks good. Do the indicator. Okay, I'm not coming up with real use cases right now. I'm not going to collect supporting data. I literally just want to do this. Submit that. Okay. Just bear with me a moment as well. Just want to do something. The other screen for me. Just checking a couple of things in the background. Bring this one over. Okay, got it back. So I'll go to my indicators and look for this one. If we go last executed, in fact, only look at active ones. Last. What is it? Next first run date. I'll tell you what I'll do. Just put updated on there. How's that? So updated on here. If I then go into my flow designer and test it, just run a test on there. Go and view the execution. It says it's completed, which should, that was up updated 2 minutes ago. I've got the wrong time zone on here. Look at that, updated just now. So that's executed. I should have an indicator task against it. Yep. Okay, so my action's working. Perfect. So success on our first action. Run all indicators. In terms of producing the method, the action at least. So run all indicators. Let's change them blue while we're working on them, green when they're done. So that's an action of the method. What I haven't got is the actual flows that call that. Okay, but let's just focus on doing the actions. How are we doing on time? So 25 minutes in, that's not too bad. Let's take a look on run all indicators is done. Run indicator. Now this is a bit more interesting because when we looked at the code, we can see it's passing in indicator record. Run indicator, indicator record. Okay, so that is a glide record of the indicator. So I need to define an input, and I'll call this indicator record. This will be a reference, which is nice because this enforces another thing that's great about Flow Designer is it enforces, right? If I want to call this, I have to pass it a reference to the indicator table with no other way to instantiate it. So I think that's really cool. If I go to this one and show definition, that returns a result ID. Okay, so I want to replicate that in my outputs. I'll create an output and I'll call it result ID. I'm just going to follow the naming convention that exists in the inputs, which is forget the name of it, but that's a string. It is mandatory, and is it mandatory because strategy.run. Well, we've got to get the strategy, we don't know. I'm not going to make it mandatory for now, but I think it should be. Input certainly is mandatory. Script step now is run indicator. Okay, but we're going to pass in a variable which is going to be indicator record, and our value is going to be our input from there, which means that we can say, we just call run indicator. So we're going to say new indicator engine dot run indicator inputs dot and we will say output dot result ID equals, I think that should work. Then our variable here is going to be called result ID. Okay, let's use the same convention. I want to be consistent. Result ID. Again, I do feel like that should be mandatory, but I'm not sure what happens if the strategy did fail. Sometimes the indicator could get, I mean, if it doesn't produce a result ID, it has failed, but I don't know if that should fail. I'm just going to save this. I don't know if that should fail the flow, like as in cause an error. I don't want to cause an error that I can't handle, so I'm going to leave it not mandatory. Is that mandatory? Okay, I'm going to make that mandatory there, and then output. I don't really know what happens if you make your output mandatory or not. So output variable then gets mapped to the script step run indicator. We'll save that. I feel like that's everything done. So we've got an indicator here, it's already got a task. Let me just close this. Okay, I'll pass it. So I've got an indicator here. When I run my test, indicator record. Manual test. Let's make sure that's the number we're looking for. Yep, 2007 run test. Fire this off, and it failed. The undefined value has no properties. Undefined. Okay, what have I done wrong? So we've got our input. We've got our input mapped there. Inputs dot indicator record. Output dot result ID. Where did it fail? Reference came in error. The undefined value has no properties. Let's break this. Didn't do a new. Didn't instantiate. Construct it properly. Let's try that. Did I save it? Save it first. And then test it. Manual test. That was successful and I've got a result ID. Although my result ID, in fact, just curious when I look at the code, if it's a manual, run indicator, result ID equals strategy run. Just curious whether that's really a result ID, because it's I haven't got a result yet. I've generated a task, I hope. Yes, that result was from the previous one that's still open. Let's just go and grab that sys ID and see. 173. Yeah, that 173.6C5. Copy that from here. Okay, so although it's called result ID, if it's a manual indicator, then it is a indicator task. Good to know. But we're 2 down, I think, on there. That seems to be working. Publish. So we've got run indicator. Let's go on here. Save file. Yep, okay. Run indicator. You can close that now. Update next date time. Update next date time. We're passing indicator, assuming indicator here is a glide record of indicator, right? Indicator.getValue next runtime. That value comes from indicator itself. So I think we're in a similar boat with the last one, where we need an input. Our input's going to be, try and be consistent, indicator record, reference to indicator, that's mandatory. Output, what have we got? Didn't check. It doesn't even return the update. No, it says no output. Put a script step in here. Update next date time. Variable is indicator record. put a space in there. Can't do that. Don't forget the new indicator engine dot update next date time inputs dot indicator record just thinking what's ever going to call that. Yeah, this dot. So it should be, it's not even a public function really, it's just not been privatized with the underscore. So I don't think I needed to do that. And the problem with doing something that's actually private, let's test it. Let's just see, indicator, manual test, run test. Does it work? Completed successfully. Oh, maybe you shouldn't publish that one, but that should be, I think, a private method. It shouldn't be on the shouldn't be an action in Flow Designer. But if we look at indicator engine, we have now been able to run an indicator, run all indicators. Run indicator takes an input. What we should do now is look, where does run all indicators actually come from? So I haven't got a code search turned on in here. If I go to the studio, obviously I have to switch to an app that I don't really care for. I'm going to go into, I'll just use Explore. If you're not using Explore, you are missing out, I think, generally speaking. Just, I don't know, the ServiceNow out of the box VS Code is really going to do something special there. But in the meantime, Explore just lets you get your objects back. I've not really tested the out of the box integration there, but background scripts can run from VS Code, so it's definitely worth a look. Okay, so I'll just do a check on run all indicators. Obviously it's within my API, but it comes from here, scheduled script execution. So can we build a flow to replace this? Let's have a look. We've got the action built. Build a flow. I think you can build scheduled flows. Run as system user, that's quite important. I forgot I switched scope to get into Studio. I really need a code search. Just native. Let's leave page. Just want to switch my scope back. Just seen a few people join the stream, so good evening or good morning, depending where you are in the world. Hit me up on the chat and let me know if you've got any comments. And all the standard stuff for anyone watching YouTube channels, like, subscribe, share, click the bell, all the things that people say if you're watching a YouTube channel. I just want you to enjoy yourself. Check out the link I posted in the chat, which is for the community post I've made on this project. Eric. Hi, Eric. Excellent initiative. Will you record and post it later? Well, I'm recording and I'm live, so yeah, it'll be available on the channel. We might chop it up and make it available, but this is really a test run. So I have converted 2 actions from the indicator engine API, and now I'm going to consume them into Flow Designer. So I don't want to do it in this scope. I used code search to go and find everywhere that the methods are getting called from. I had to change scope to do that. So let's call this run all indicators. And sometimes I'm naming my actions very much like camel case, as if they're in the methods. And I think when we're doing the flows and when we're doing the actions in Flow Designer, probably we need to give them a bit more user-friendly name, thinking about who might be calling that. So a scheduled job will typically run as system user, especially for indicators in GRC. It's very important because that is going to access data that not every user might have permission for. So it does run as system user. That's quite important. Can I do this scheduled? Can I run trigger in here? Can you run schedules trigger, select a trigger, repeat? Is it that one? Here we go, date. It's daily, isn't it? If we look at that. Code search, daily. Yep. Excellent. So when should we run it? Show XML, run at runtime, 8 AM. That's UTC, right? Day of the week, 1-1. No, because it's the daily indicator. Sorry, daily schedule. So hopefully, done. Select an action, and this is the most beautiful bit of Flow Designer. Now under profiles, I didn't publish it. Okay, so if we go to my actions, profiles, run all indicators. See, I feel like that needs to be renamed now. That should be called run all indicators. And then publish. And then the flow consumes an action called run all indicators, and we can give it a description and everything else afterwards. Done. Save. Test it. Let's make sure it flows and it runs. Flow's been executed, completed, all looks good. Has my indicator got a new task? I don't know if it checks for existing open tasks actually off the top of my head. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's already got one, so let's close this. In fact, the next run at date, schedule, next run time is tomorrow anyway, so it wouldn't have run on that system. But the API executed successfully, which is great. So run all indicators has been converted, and we'll update our diagram. Run all indicators comes from a scheduled job. Now, if we're really looking to swap out and convert everything to GRC, the real test is going to turn that scheduled job off. If I reload this form, I should get rid of that scope issue. No, because okay, copy URL, fire it up in here, and it wasn't active anyway. Right, of course, you have to activate this. So out of the box, if we wanted to be harsh, we just delete it, right? It's gone. Replaced with Flow Designer now. I haven't activated it, so if you wanted to run all indicators every night or every day, you then come in here and activate it. Lovely. Look at flows, look under application GRC profiles, and we've got run all indicators in there. The next one we're looking at is run indicator. Okay, now this is going to get a bit more interesting because I believe this comes from a script action, which comes from a UI action. So I think it needs to be a subflow. Yeah, calls obviously within the API, which we've converted. Yeah, that's script action. So there's two in here. You've got the batch run, and you've got the script action, which comes from So we can look at this script action, comes off of an event which comes from a UI action. So do we want the UI action to directly call the subflow? Yeah, and cut the script action out of it altogether. Let's have a look. Flow designer. So we go new subflow, and this is going to be called. Forgotten what we're doing. Run indicator. Run execute indicator. So here it's called execute indicator. Let's call it that. Execute indicator. It's in our profiles application category, full flow. Not going to do protection. Run as system user. It's an event level. I'm not going to do descriptions and annotations right now. This is MVP, which is a great excuse for not doing documentation. So when we execute an indicator, we do need an input. So yeah, define the input here, which is going to be indicator record, and the type is going to be reference to indicator. This is mandatory. You can't execute an indicator without an indicator. And did we, when we run an indicator, it does return result ID, right? So an output is going to be result ID. That will be a string. Inputs and outputs. So I think that's good. Select an action. It's going to be under Grc Profiles, run indicator. And let's go and rename that one, because let's call it execute indicator. That seems to be the friendly version of it. So we've got execute indicator action and an execute indicator subflow. This looks a bit nicer when we do it this way. So our indicator is going to be from the data pool or from our subflow inputs. Map that in there. Done. And our subflow outputs, how do we map that? Value. So this action is going to return a result ID. Can I put action comes out, where's the output go? How do I map that value? Is it this bit here? Here we go. Advanced options. Default value. Shouldn't really be default value. Am I missing something? Subflows, inputs and outputs. So how can I define the outputs before the action, which is going to give me an output, and where do I map that output to? You can see here we've got a subflow output and we've got the same thing. Not sure there. Let's save it. We don't want to lose it. And we should test it. So did I close? Let's close this indicator task. Closed and passed. We don't want to create any issues yet. Yeah. Take that. That will then generate indicate result has been created. Lovely. So we test this. for our manual test. Run. Let's see what happens. Completed. Now this returns a result ID. We see the steps. But my subflow output hasn't got a value in there. So I'm not happy with this. Although I have got a subflow, which is great. I should have an indicated task, a new one. Yep, thank you. So let's have a look. Subflow. What we can do, okay, we need to publish this subflow. Once we've published the subflow, we can do a code snippet. We can just copy that to the clipboard, and then if we go to our indicator, execute. Now, what would normally happen, this UI action will fire a script act, or fire an event. Where is it? Event queue here. And that event will be picked up by the script action. So we just get it straight in here. So you see that execute indicator. If type equals manual, maximum number of indicator tasks exceeded. Yeah, so this is why it doesn't create when it checks for open ones. Excellent. Now, too many open indicator tasks, no task was created. So we still want to do that check. That looks good. An indicator task will be created. It may take some time. Else, it will be created. What's that else for then? If type. Okay, an indicator result will be created, of course. So this bit here, let's go. That's called execute indicator. I'm going to say execute indicator subflow current, and comment that out, and then create another function called execute indicator subflow. I'm going to call that indicator record, and we can get rid of those bits. We've still got a try catch. Looks good. What don't you like? Inputs. Inputs equals indicator record from our function. And do we want to start it asynchronously? Yes, we do. Indicators can take a long time. Let's comment. Let's just delete those. So we want to run that asynchronously. That's quite nice actually, the name of that, like sngrc.execute indicator as a subflow versus the event that it's replaced. Okay, so that actually looks quite nice. We've got a subflow that matches what the event queue was. Result ID equals outputs. Result ID. Yeah, we can't get outputs because it's synchronous. How's the audio on here? I'm just going to check because I'm getting some buzzing. Looking okay. Excellent. Okay, so we've got asynchronous. Just going to fire that. What happens is up to the jobs. Up here, execute indicator subflow is going to call that down here. Minimize. Update that. And we've got a task open. let's just see that error message, right? It should, or at least info message telling us about the open indicator tasks. Yep. Oh, it says it will be created, so I would have expected that not to happen. It lets us have two open at once, so that worked, right? And if we go to our Flow Designer, another thing I love about Flow Designer, debugging, executions. Look at that, just now. So I can go and watch. If I want to see when did this run, I don't have to start ploughing through logs. I can see that just ran. And my output, guess what? It's going to be the sysid of this. It's going to be this sysid. What's template? Okay. Oh yeah, indicator template. Sorry, that threw me. So our value there, our result ID is actually an indicator task 4896ED. Let's paste this in somewhere. 4896ED, lovely. So very happy with that. Now there's another place where that was getting called from. Indicator batch run, which is another script action. So indicator batch run is going to get fired from it actually gets fired from the API itself. If you look, run all indicators, if we've got high volumes, and depending, you can actually tune your indicators now for performance. There's a batch table. It will break those. It won't just try and run all indicators in one go. It will actually break that list up and create records on a table and then work through that batch. Okay, this was a new feature introduced in the last couple of versions. I actually missed it when it first came out, but this seeks to deal with some of the performance issues that can occur if you've got really high volumes of controls, lots of platform data that needs to be processed for indicators. We can use batching, okay, so it never really loses itself or gets stuck, and you can go and check and monitor how those batches are working. So from our main run all indicators, it actually runs through that indicator batch table, and then from here fires the event indicator batch, which gets picked up by our script include indicator batch script action, and then runs here new indicator engine, run indicator, and update next date time. So surely run indicator, update next date time. Okay, because it's coming from a batch. That's why it's been decoupled. So don't publish that one. I can see what they've done here, and I'm just thinking about the overhead. If it's worth us, how much of is worth converting? So let's go and have a look. I think we should have a go at least dealing with the script action. Get the script action to fire this like we did a moment ago. So we come in here, code snippet, copy the code snippet, go in here, and where it would normally run engine, we're going to call here, let me pull up that last UI action because I've done it all, and now I've got a nice little function. Execute indicator subflow. So I'm going to grab that. Don't need to do the code snippet. Paste that function in. We've got event palm 1. You see, you should always wrap in here. If we can't do that, then return safety first. Why don't you like it? Return outside of a function. Okay. Fair enough. Let's put it always wrap a get in a function. What if that event is badly formed? Let's do this. Why don't you like this function? Move this to program root. Not a problem. So we've got execute indicator subflow. Execute indicator subflow indicator. And then use the engine to update the next date time. Because I've got it as an action that's not been published, it would need to be a subflow in order to be called from here. But if I expose it in that way, that suggests that it's supposed to be consumed. So what I would probably look to do is create two different subflows. Okay, one with as it's doing right now, and then one with this embedded in the subflow. That's got to be a better option. Then we called execute indicator from batch. That's what I think would be a better option. So let's just check the logic on here. So our batch is our indicator batch table. If we can get it, then we will process it. Indicator will get the value of the indicators, all indicators in that batch. New engine, and we can actually get rid of another line here. Just put that in there. Execute subflow, calls this one, passes in indicator, which is our glide record, indicator record. Okay, I'm going to save that. That's going to be difficult to test because I don't have enough volume right now to process batches. So that needs testing. But what we've got here, if we look, we've got the UI action execute. That's done. Then we've got the script action. Indicator batch run. I would like the name of that, to be honest with you. Where is it? There. Script action, execute batch. So this one hasn't been tested yet. I don't know what colour to use. There, amber. So it's converted, but it's not been tested. Just saving this file. How are we doing on time? I hope the quality's been okay. We've done an hour. It says out of 2 hours. What's the time? 10 to 10. Are there any other areas that, let's refresh the community. Are there any other areas? Thanks, Eric. Are there any other areas that we've got for indicators? We've got the indicator engine. We did a search, right? So we called that event execute indicator. So our script action, run indicator from the batch run. We should check whether update next date time is coming from anywhere else. I am intrigued on that one. I think that's a slightly imperfect solution we've got at the moment. It's not making the most out of the way flow designer actions can be kind of scaled, but that seems to solve the problem right now. New indicator engine. yes, execute subflow new indicator engine. That's the one we've just put in place. And let's just check line 33 on there. That's for run all indicators. So I would say we've converted indicators into Flow Designer there. Just feels a bit too easy. If I missed something, let's go and check out Flow Designer. And we look at our flows now. Grc Profiles, run all indicators. Yeah, that's a schedule. And our subflows. Grc Profiles. Execute indicator. Actions. Grc Profiles as well. Execute indicator is still draft. Okay, so actually we should have published that. I think because we changed the name. Where were we? Actions, execute indicator, that's now published. This one shouldn't really be consumed. It actually should be prefixed differently in the API. So we can execute indicators, we can run all indicators. Now when I said we've converted all indicators to Flow Designer, it's obviously not that simple, because that's from the kind of UI side, the schedule and the UI action. And I'm just thinking, you know, how best to say this. So we've got indicator, if we go back to my indicator task, when this gets closed, configure business rules, right? So what we need to do next is actually go through table by table and look in here at so we've converted the APIs and we've converted the kind of UI, but we need to look in here for SNGRC indicator task as a table level, and then SNGRC indicator result, because this indicator result is what's going to trigger whether the control's compliant, whether the risk factor's gone up, whether we need to create an issue. This is going to actually generate the indicator result. So table by table, we need to go through here, like generate indicators for templates. We've done the scheduled job, we've done the script actions, generate indicators. We need to do SNGRC indicator templates. Yeah, we need to go through each table, and you need to think when a new control gets generated, that control is going to trigger the creation of a new indicator from the template. So there's a whole load of workflow that is taking place in there. If we want to go full flow, then we do need to do this, but certainly it's been an interesting exercise. Yeah, here we go. Look, check maximum indicator task closed. Let's just take a quick look. Maybe we'll plan these in for next time. Where are we? Hour and 10. So insert before. I think this might be a problem. I've not really tested Flow Designer to this extent, but I think we're going to be left behind with things like before insert. Is it really dependent on doing it before? Yeah, because it's got a set abort action in here. Maximum number of indicator tasks exceeded. So I think we're going to have a list of exceptions, things we can't convert yet. I would put that in the pot of things we can't convert yet. So let's just, that's on indicator task and business rule, check maximum. I think that's going to be a red. on that table level. What we have got is indicator task closed, and this should be after. I predict this will be after. It's before. Before state is closed. Okay, making a prediction and lost. If current result is nil, see, this is the problem with Flow Designer and befores, right? We can't handle that bit. What you could do, you don't want to update it back. You know, you want to prevent that update actually happening. So else if result is nil, result is required to close the task. How does the result get generated then if it's not before close? Else if current indicator, so if there is an indicator, okay, we check for mandatory, yes. Else indicator ID, get the indicator, should be wrapped, conditional, get the strategy, hold on, state is, oh yeah, because it's indicator task, yeah, so of course it knows it can get the strategy, result equals current result plus past, plus string equals past, so that's either true or false, add result, strategy dot add result, so that's probably another method we want to break through in that strategy, add result, current value, an indicator result has been created. This is what I understand. Add result. I was thinking that result was a reference to the indicator result, but result is true or false, it's pass or fail. So if we can just quickly just look at this, look, result here, passed or failed. Okay, that was throwing me for a moment. Yes, so you can't close an indicator task without a result. Just, yeah, it's going to close. If you did want to, you can cancel it. Right? If you're not going to complete it. Okay, that threw me for a moment, I'll be honest with you. So before business rules might be a problem, but indicator task close, again, it's before business rules, so we're going to have a possible problem here. I don't know what we can do there if it's conditional, because that's how it's going to generate the result. I think we put them in a pot and say these ones we can't do, and then when I find out that I'm wrong on Flow Designer can do something with before business rules, we come back and we do these, okay, and then we can move forward. That's my plan. Other than that, well, it's Tuesday night and it's getting late in the UK, so thanks everyone for watching. Let me do some really cool stuff for, yes, Phil goes deep. Okay, so thanks for watching. Apologies, it's been around 5 months. I'm going to try and schedule in some of these calls, maybe get my hair sorted. I'll cut next week. Schedule in some of these sessions. Maybe we can convert GRC to Flow Designer in full in 24 hours. So this is part 1. Thanks for watching, and yeah, take care, stay safe.